Hello and welcome back to ATM Digital, Aruba's virtual event focused on all things networking, security, IoT, and of course, the edge. Again, I'm Chris Kozup, your virtual host for this event. I certainly hope that you had an opportunity to join us yesterday. We had some really great moments, excellent content, and certainly a lot of engagement. Be sure that you didn't miss Kirti Melkoti's keynote, where we unveiled some great new innovation and future technologies for Aruba. We also had some great special guests, and of course, that celebrity drop-in. So if you didn't have a chance to join us on day one, make sure you go back and really take a closer look at all of that great content. Now today, for day two, is all about taking things a little bit deeper. We're going to follow up from a lot of the announcements and actually put those into practice. Show you some actual practical demonstrations of how we bring this technology to life. Now I can think of no one better to take us through that than Partha Narasimhan. Partha is Aruba's Chief Technology Officer, or otherwise affectionately known as Airhead 1. We mean that with all love and respect, of course, Partha. Now, as I understand it, Partha has a great keynote prepared for us today. In fact, from what I hear, he's going to play the role of a game show host. So I'm not quite sure what that's going to hold, but hey, let's check it out and take a closer look. So Partha, over to you.
We live on the edge.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the tech keynote of Atmosphere Digital. We are used to doing the tech keynote live on stage with a lot of my Aruba colleagues joining me on stage, and we do a bunch of demos to bring up all of the technologies to life here. And we're used to doing this in front of thousands of you physically present in the audience. Today, in this new format, my audience is one, Doug over here, who is a one-man army that's managing all of the 14 pieces of audio-video equipment that surrounds me here. So it feels like somewhat of a letdown, a little bit of a disappointment. But I have to still be thankful for what I have with us. When I look at what's happening around us, around the world, think about those of you that either have directly suffered the loss of a loved one or know somebody else who did, or having had some kind of an impact due to this COVID-19 situation, either health-wise or economic. And I feel like I shouldn't complain, and I should be thankful for what I have. I also want to acknowledge those of us that are still keeping our lives going, even in this new format. Think about the frontline healthcare workers, or those that keep the grocery shelves restocked, or many other things in our lives that we used to take for granted that we still do. My thanks to all of you doing so. And I want to acknowledge one special group of people, the Airheads Volunteer Corps. The number of you that stepped up and responded when we put that call for action. Thank you very much. So yesterday, those of you that tuned in to listen to Kirti lay out his vision for Aruba, our future, for not just for us, but our customers and partners. He launched the Aruba's Edge Services Platform, or ESP for short. And he went into details about how the three pillars that make up ESP, AI Ops, Zero Trust Security, and Unified Infrastructure, can be applied to address problems at the edge related to connect, protect, analyze, and act. In this keynote today, we're going to use all of the technologies that the product teams have been busy building to bring to life the Edge Services Platform for you. Again, like I said before, we are used to doing this live on stage, and that's what the team was driving towards when we constructed all of the components of this keynote. And then we all got into this current situation with the COVID-19, and we said, okay, how do we now adjust to the new reality, just like all of us, all of you, have had to make some degree of adjustments in the last 2 months or so. And I look back in the past couple of months on the number of birthday parties that I used to be, I'm used to attending in person, but have now been turned into a virtual medium over Zoom calls or other video conferencing services. And some of the game nights that I've been a part of in the past few weeks. So we're really excited to bring to you all of the content, all of the demos that we had planned as a live show on stage in this new game show format. So I'm going to go make a quick change and come back. Let's get the game show started.
Hello and welcome to the Aruba ESP Game Show. I'm your host, Medallia Jolly. Today our contestants are Nick, I never get lost Newton, Nirmal, could his shirt collar be any bigger? Roger Oppenham, Jyoti, some say has a sixth sense, Sri Kumar, William, never switches his answers, Cho, David, the sensitive one Wilson. Get it? Because he deals with sensors, sensitive, sensors? Huh? Okay, no? All right. Samuel, living in the cloud for Ed. And Dan the Man. Wait, Dan the Man? That's the name? Is this right? Wait, Dan, what are you wearing? No, Dan. No. It was you're going to be in front of a green screen, not wear a green screen. Where do they find these people? And now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is my pleasure, it is my honor to introduce Chief Airhead and the real host of Aruba ESP, Partha Narasimhan.
All right, let's bring up the Aruba ESP game board onto the screen. The game board is empty right now, and that's not very interesting. So I'm going to go around to each of the participants and ask them to contribute a topic that came up in a recent conversation with a customer. Samuel?
Yeah, Partha, we have this need from our customers to provide a single architecture for branches, for campuses, and even for teleworkers, all managed by a single pane of glass.
David?
Network uptime is great, but are my users happy?
Jyoti?
So customers would really like to proactively resolve some issues and for some other issues, get to a faster time for resolution.
Nirmal?
Hey, Partha, I have customers say security perimeter is changing.
William?
Yeah, so in our discussions with customers, what we often find is that they want to secure IoT as quick as possible. Moreover, they're looking for a simplified, uniform operating model across the campus, branch, and data center networks.
Nick?
Partha, customers are asking me, where are my people and things? How can my network do more to help with location and line of business use cases? And please help me with my business recovery.
All right, each of the topics that the contestants contributed is up on the game board. Got a great set of topics on one side, wonderful set of contestants on the other side. We've got to go take one topic at a time, and I'll call for volunteers. Let's start with, are my end users happy with the service? Who wants to volunteer for this topic?
I'll take that one.
Perfect. Dave, step forward. Let's start with a game that we call fact or fiction. So I'm going to make a statement and you decide whether it's fact or fiction. Sound good?
How about we flip it, Partha? Why don't I say something and you tell me if it's fact or fiction?
You want to play the host and you want me to be a contestant?
Yeah, why not?
Well, but I don't want to do it alone. Can I bring along a buddy and another contestant that I compete against with? And I do want to win, so can I choose Dan the Man?
Yes! Hey, Partha, glad to play the game with you.
Sure. Let's go.
All right. The most important ingredient in AI is the algorithms. Fact or fiction, Partha?
I live in the real world and not the fictional world. I do like algorithms, so I'm going to say fact.
I don't know. AI sounds like science fiction, so I'm gonna say fiction.
Well, Dan is right, but not necessarily for the right reasons. It is fiction because the most important thing is the data. It's having a diverse, unique, really large data set, and that's the foundation on which all good AI is built. All right, so next, Partha. All the data that you need, you can get from the network. Fact or fiction?
Well, I got to get this done. The network's been deployed for years. It's sending a lot of data, telemetry data, so what more do you need? Fact.
I don't know, because Data was a character on a television show, so I'm gonna say fiction.
Dan is so wrong, but also happens to somehow be right. It is fiction, and you need the user's perspective on network and application performance, not just the networks. And a good way to get that is from sensors that act like automated end users. And our user experience insight sensors are now collecting 300 million records every day. That's almost 10 times more than this time last year. So, third fact or fiction. Having sensors means that you need more AP-like devices on the ceiling. Partha.
Well, where else are you going to deploy them? You can't throw them on the floor. So, of course, they're going to be on the ceiling. Fact.
Well, they're on the ceiling, then it's over my head. So, fiction?
I'm not sure that Dan should get credit for that, but yeah, you don't need more devices on the ceiling, and actually they don't need to look like APs. We're launching the new Aruba G-Series sensors, and they're designed to be even easier to deploy and fit into any environment. There are two models, one with cellular for zero-touch deployment and out-of-band connectivity, and that's really the model that you'd want to have as the first sensor in any new site or branch with or campus environment. And the other model is without cellular, and that's for densifying campus deployments. And that's easier to install than ever. You can use adhesive for rapid install. It has secure installation options, junction box mounting, rail mounting. You can install it however you like. And onboarding is even easier than before. So whether you have cellular connectivity or Ethernet connectivity or neither, you can still have zero-touch deployment via the UXI app. And of course, the most distinctive thing about the new sensors is how good they look.
Hey, David, this sounds really good. Do you have one to show us today?
Partha, yes, I do. Here it is. And what we did is we took a step back and asked ourselves, what should a sensor really look like? What we did was we looked to architecture for inspiration, which is how we ended up with this column design, which is really distinctive, but also fades into the background and fits into almost any environment. And we think our customers are going to love it. It's available today. All right. Final fact or fiction. Sensors only do basic standard network tests to tell if services are reachable or available. Fact or fiction, Partha?
Hey, I'm way behind, but not everything can be fiction. So I'm going to stay with fact. Fact, David?
Well, I hate to disagree because, when I was taking a standard test, if I didn't know, I would just guess fiction. So, fiction?
It hurts me to say this, but once again, Dan is right. It is fiction this time. Partha, users are only happy when their applications are performing well, right? Applications like Teams or Salesforce or YouTube. And now our customers can record their own custom web application tests that emulate a user's interaction with any one of those third-party applications or homegrown, business-critical, internal applications. And the sensors are then able to play back those interactions and measure that real user interaction, that real user performance from any location 24/7. Let me show you a demo. Here's the User Experience Insight dashboard. We'll come right back here, but first we're going to record a custom web application test of Microsoft Teams. We're opening a Chrome extension called Selenium IDE. It's free. Selenium is an open source framework for test automation that's used primarily by app developers. And we're going to tell it to go to the Teams URL and start recording our interactions. So we'll log in with our credentials, and that allows the sensors to have the exact same end user experience as your organization's users. Okay, we've logged in, and At this point, we can interact with teams however we like, and all of those interactions will be recorded. But let's keep this short. We're just going to log in and now log out. We're ending the recording and saving it as a Selenium script. Now let's head over to the UXI dashboard's settings page. We're going to add a new custom test. They're all the standard reachability, availability, throughput tests, and a few others, but we're selecting web application test. We're uploading the recording that we just made. It's then encrypted and stored securely in our cloud. And in a few minutes, all of our sensors will sync with the cloud and download that new script and begin playing it back. And they can do that because every sensor is running a web browser, just like a real user. So that web browser will play back that Selenium script. Now that took us less than 2 minutes to record and set up, and in a few minutes test results will start coming in. In the meantime, I've recorded a similar web app test for Salesforce. Let's take a look. We can see the performance over time of that overall interaction, and we can see a couple of issues that the sensors encountered in that interaction. We can click on them to see if it's an issue with our network or the application itself. And that's web app testing on User Experience Insight.
David, that was an awesome demo. I can see how the sensors are getting closer and closer to measuring real user experience. I'm sure lots of customers have deployed user experience sensors. What has the customer response been so far?
We now have thousands of customers in 80 countries, and the response has been really fantastic.
I know we have a story to tell from one of our customers, the Vancouver Clinic. Let's roll their video.
At the Vancouver Clinic, we've deployed the Aruba User Experience Insight sensors, the UXI sensors, around all of our buildings. We use them to check for critical application availability. For example, our doctors have a smart pager, which keeps them in contact with other doctors regarding patient care. With the recent COVID crisis, we rely heavily on video visits. Those video visits are run off of a BYOD wireless network where the doctors bring their own tablets and devices into the clinic. We need to make sure that the endpoints that they need to reach are available. We perform synthetic testing on a regular basis. We get alerts before our doctors get alerts. We're proactive. When one of the UXI synthetic tests fails, it alerts us. We can typically address the problem before our patients, employees, or doctors can even recognize there has been a problem.
Impressive video. Thanks to the Vancouver Clinic for showing us creative use of technology to measure something that is very subjective. Thanks to you, David, as well. Off to the game board we go. All right. The next topic of interest is how do you move from reactive to proactive workflows in troubleshooting, and how do you resolve issues quickly? Who wants to volunteer?
Partha, I'll volunteer for this.
Perfect, Jyoti. You and I have had a few conversations about how today's troubleshooting workflows are very reactive in nature because they typically have a human in mind, either an end user reporting a problem or an admin noticing something is different today. And that adds to the delay of getting these resolved. And customers have expressed an interest to make these things more proactive in nature. How would you solve the problem?
So let's see what happens when there is an issue with your network and how IT normally would go about resolving this issue. I would challenge one of my very smart fellow contestants to play this game with me.
Jyoti, hey, I'll play the game.
Okay, Dan, let's play this game. This game is called Order These Steps. So, Dan, you get a frantic call saying that there's an issue in your network. What do you do next?
Okay, got it. What would my IT friend say? Okay, take laptop, changed, check portal capture. Check portal capture. They always start with that, right? That's what they say. So 8, 6, 75309 8675309. Come on, Dorothy.
No, Dan. That sounded really good, but that's not the right answer.
Yeah, not correct. Not even by coincidence this time, Dan. All right, Jyoti, how would you solve it?
So with Aruba Central and integrations with UXI sensors, which you heard about a little bit earlier from David, we can proactively identify issues in your network and provide recommendations that can fix the issue automatically. Let's see this in a demo.
Let's log into Aruba Central's Network Health dashboard. You will notice that one of the sites here is reporting potential issues. Click on the site and you see the user experience error, which is reported by the UXI sensor. The UXI sensor is running its tests, trying to connect to the network, and identifies that it's not able to receive an IP address from the DHCP server. Along with the user experience status, we also see an insight for this site. Let's go to the AI Insights tab, and you see a DHCP timeout insight is generated. The DHCP Insight timeout also runs network checks in the background and identifies the root cause of the issue. In this case, the root cause is reported as a missing VLAN. Further analysis of the root cause also identifies that the VLAN is missing on a switch that is configured at this site. We also gathered additional data like packet captures for the network administrator to further analyze and troubleshoot the issue. And finally, we have an option to click on the Apply Fix button here and push the necessary configuration changes to take care of the problem. We have a trend chart of the issue which identifies that the problem has started occurring within the last 1 hour. We also give detailed impact cards. You see the access point that is having the issue, the clients that are reporting this particular issue, and the specific VLAN which is misconfigured on the switch. Now that we have made the necessary changes to fix the issue in your network, let's go back and check the status of the site. You will notice that the UXI sensor continues its test and is now able to receive a DHCP IP and connect to the network. The status for the UXI sensor is now reported back to Central, and the status is shown as everything is good.
Jyoti, thanks for that awesome demo. That helps us understand how data, not just from the network infrastructure, but also from the UXI sensors, gets fed into the AI engine to translate it into automatic discovery of problems, root causing, and a recommendation being suggested. But there are also problems that fall under a category that are very difficult to troubleshoot, right? These typically happen with issues that don't occur very often, or corner cases that we sometimes encounter in customer environments. And that process typically works with a customer reporting a problem into TAC, opening up a ticket, and TAC going out there and gathering the required data to ultimately find a resolution. Is there any way we can speed up that process and shrink the time it takes to resolution?
Sure, Partha. The AI Assist feature has a troubleshooting recipe or service associated with each event, and that decides what data and logs needs to be collected to further debug the issue. Once the event is generated, AI Assist will start the process of data collection, and once it's done, it uploads this data along with the context to a secure location, and then also sends a notification to Aruba support. Aruba support can then access all this data, and that will help debug and troubleshoot this issue and come to a resolution in a much faster way. Let's take a look at this in a demo.
Once you log into Aruba Central, you will see a notification which indicates either a critical alert or an AI Assist event that has occurred in your network. Let's click on the AI Assist tab, and this lists the event that triggered AI Assist. In this specific example, the AI Assist was triggered by a tunnel state change. This is an SD branch deployment where we have branch gateways forming IPsec tunnels to the VPNCs in the data center. When the tunnel state change event was generated by the branch gateway, that triggered AI Assist to automatically collect relevant logs from the endpoint devices. The network admin now has the option to either download the tar file containing the logs or email this. You can see here, along with the logs, we have also collected relevant context and metadata related to this event, such as the site name, group name, the device type that generated the event details, as well as the CLI commands that were included as part of the troubleshooting service. You also see a URL where the customer or TAC can access the collected data. We also indicate that this event has triggered an automatic notification to Aruba support. When TAC receives this notification, they get the metadata related to this event that provides complete context as well as the log files that were gathered. Aruba support, after reviewing the issue, can now recommend further action. The recommendation may include changes to the network in order to resolve the issue. Once TAC has completed this analysis, they can notify the network admin using the TAC notes. This could include the case ID and detailed analysis as well as recommendation to resolve the problem.
Jyoti, thanks for joining us and for those couple of awesome demos in there. I can't wait for more customers to benefit from some of these features. Let's go back to the game board now. Next up is Zero Trust Security. But let's start that segment with a message from our security expert, Madani.
I'm here to talk to you today about Zero Trust Security. Now, you may say to yourself, well, I don't know if I trust this person based on what they're wearing. This is not really my work-from-home attire. This is really to illustrate a point. So how do we apply security for Zero Trust? Well, we apply it using layers, which is kind of why I'm dressed this way. Now, what does Aruba have to say about that? Well, we've been doing security since the very beginning. If you think about where the company started, way back in the early 2000s, we introduced a stateful firewall in our wireless controller. It was a first. It had never been done before. Now, you fast forward a little bit more, we started to do things like context-based policies through ClearPass Policy Manager. Really, that was the birth of dynamic segmentation, bringing the world of enforcement and policy within our portfolio. You fast forward a little bit more, we introduced application visibility and enforcement. So now we could detect what applications users and devices were using, we could see them as well, and therefore apply policy. Pretty remarkable stuff. Fast forward a little bit more, we then took that technology and we brought it to our wired users as well, introducing things like user-based tunneling. A little while later, we introduced AI-based profiling. Because what we started to see were a lot of devices started looking the same, because from one vendor they could perform different functions, but they all looked alike. How could we tell? Well, we started using things like behavioral analytics. Now, there's some really cool stuff we're about to show you here that I don't really want to ruin the surprise, but I will tell you it's some of the new advancements in our SD branch portfolio, as well as our new CX portfolio of campus switches. So without further ado, this is the end of the striptease. Enjoy.
That was a great lead-in to the Zero Trust Security segment, Madani. Thank you. Let's go back to the game board to see what's coming up next. Looks like it's Security Perimeter is Changing topic. Who wants to volunteer for this segment?
That would be me, Partha. That is my area of expertise.
Oh, thank you, Nirmal. Please step forward. So we've had customer conversations. It's come up many times where data and apps are moving to the cloud. Branch locations are getting directly connected to the internet. Users are mobile everywhere. This means that what used to be the security perimeter in the data center years ago is changing all the time. At Aruba, we've always had a focus on security solutions throughout our history. How do we take all the things that we've done and address this current situation?
As you know, Partha, Aruba is already covering different aspects of security, and Zero Trust is all about people, applications, devices, network, and data.
What are some of these risks, Nirmal?
Now that you asked, and since we're in a gameplay, let's play this game called Rate This Risk.
Did someone say a game? I'm game.
Oh, no, Dan. I would rate you very high risk. So, no. Let me take this. Please go away. Tell me how to play this game, Nirmal.
It's fairly simple, Partha. You have a bunch of entities. All you have to do is bucket them into high risk, medium risk, and low risk. Let's go.
All right, I could do that. Let me see. Campus location, I would probably rate that low risk. An employee, probably low risk. Unknown router, no, that's bad. So it has to probably be high risk. So is a webcam, because we don't know what's going on over there. A branch location used to be low risk, but it probably is moving upstream into the medium risk category.
Oh, hold on. I'm getting a Slack notification. This would be a perfect opportunity to show you how we mitigate these risks. And let's go to a demo now. Yes, I should have known as soon as Dan walked into the building. It looks like the gateway has triggered an alert of severity critical and malware type. And the IDS IPS engine has blocked it, as you can see it, Partha. And because it is a critical alert, there was a notification sent to ClearPass, which has then quarantined this device. So let's go to the dashboard, and I'll show you how it has, how the whole sequence of things have transpired. As you can see here, on the top left, you see the different type of threats, and as you highlight or hover on it, you can see the count of different threats that has happened over a period of time. And on the right, you see the time series of the overall number of threats happening based on different categories that have been captured by the IDS IPS engine. And on the left below the donut chart, you see the different trends. And as you can see, the DNS and TLS threats have been trending high, about over 100% in this case. And as you can see to the right, there is a most affected gateway. It appears it might have come from that based on the Slack message that we saw. That let's go ahead and go into this and see what's going on. So as you can see here, Partha, the list of different type of threats are listed here based on which gateway it came from, what time series it happened, based on the type of different threats. And given that we clicked on that green bar in there, it takes you to the DNS type of threat. So that has come in recently. Let's go look at it and see the details of what's going on here. So when you go in here, you see that we have the time series, the time when it happened. It also shows you the signature. And as you can see, it's a WannaCry DNS lookup. This could potentially be a pretty bad one, because as it goes on, there can be a lateral movement happening from one device to the next and so on. And no wonder it's being marked as a critical severity and of malware type. So you can see that we can start from the investigation in the sense we detect a particular problem happening to responding to that from the IDS of blocking that and also taking that device off the network by responding to that incident. And so that's the demo. So what do you think, Partha?
That was a great demo, Nirmal. Thank you. Let's get the game board back on the screen, please. Okay, looks like the next topic is secure IoT. And I know this is William's area of interest. William, are you ready?
I am. Let's do it.
All right. So you know that, if you look around and your own personal lives, all of our personal devices have all transformed into mobile devices. But that doesn't mean that the connectivity on the wired network is going down. It actually is ticking up. And a lot of that growth is coming from IoT. Think of a security camera, for example.
That's right. Where mobile devices just could tunnel back to a central anchor point, with the explosion of wired devices, you really need the flexibility in the topologies to pick and choose from. So we need a highly programmable infrastructure for both wired and wireless. Thus, dynamic segmentation. Now, I know you know about dynamic segmentation, so let's play a game.
A game? Hey guys, hey Partha, look, I know you cut me out of the last game, so is there any way I can, host this game?
Host?
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Okay.
Okay? All right. Hi, welcome to Aruba's 5 Seconds or Less. I'm your host, Dan the Man. Let's get started. William, can you answer this? Can you give me 2 use cases for dynamic segmentation in 5 seconds or less? Go.
Shopper access, and how about security cameras?
Sounds good to me. Partha, same question, 5 seconds or less.
Teacher and student traffic separation?
Sure. All right, William, back to you. Give me 2 benefits of dynamic segmentation, 5 seconds or less.
Simpler network design and intelligent policy.
Really cutting it to the edge there, but both in time. That's correct. Partha, same question, 5 seconds.
Decouple policy from topology?
I don't know, but it sounds right. We got a tie score going into the third and final question, and it's on tunnels. Just tunnels, all we got. Like when you dig on 2 opposite ends of a street and meet in the middle, tunnels. You know what, William? Tell us more about tunnels while I tunnel myself out of this mess.
I think the best way to do it, to bring it to life, is let's do a demo on dynamic segmentation. All right, let's start off this demo by taking a look at the ports GUI. It's been enhanced to reflect the addition of switch-to-switch tunneling based on VXLAN on the Aruba 6300 CX series switches. We have multiple devices plugged into this 6300. First, you'll see a security camera, which is using virtual network-based tunnels with MAC authentication. Next, there's an employee PC .1x authenticated, also using virtual network-based tunnels. And then you have a contractor PC .1x authenticated using user-based tunnels. And then we have an Aruba AP locally switched, as well as a Siemens ruggedized switch that is also locally switched. We have the additional flexibility to have switch-to-switch tunneling based on VXLAN that may seem like a daunting task to configure, but with NetEdit, we can simplify even the most complex task. Let's take a look at NetEdit. Here you have the topology first, and we have an end-to-end CX network. At the edge, you have 6300s connected all the way through with an underlay network to the data center with our 8000 series switches. And with the overlay, you can see that we have virtual network space tunnels or switch-to-switch connections, as well as user-based tunnels that allow for devices and users to connect back to a gateway. Now let's see how easy it is to configure using NetEdit. So even with complex configurations for such as BGP or VPN, NetEdit can quickly deploy it across the campus and data center, extending L2 domains. Now there are a couple automation options. We can click on a switch or multiple switches and edit the configs with the config editor, or we can use the new solution wizard. NetEdit has this built-in solution wizard which allows for automated deployment for specific features. For example, we can automatically configure the VLAN to VNI mappings using this overlay wizard. And so as you can see, all you need to do is enter in the desired VLAN and NetEdit will create that VNI mapping.
The one thing that I do want to highlight is that even though NetEdit looked a little different than everything else we've seen so far on Central, the team is hard at work in integrating NetEdit into Central, so look forward to that very soon. And there was another question I had for you, William. As you were doing the demo, I noticed that you were showing switches on the access switches in the demo running AOSCX. A lot of people in the audience might think of AOSCX as being the operating system for the CoreAG switches. Can you expand on that, on all the recent work that we've done on AOSCX?
That's right, Partha. Thanks. Yeah, so we started the CX journey back in 2017 and have gotten tremendous feedback from customers around the world. And we started that journey really with the most modern cloud-native operating system instantiated in the core aggregation and the data center. But we recently, just last year, took all that goodness to the edge. And there are 3 real kind of major pillars that we built around. It's one common operating model with a completely integrated API set to integrate back into your workflows, but more so having the flexibility to have purpose-built switches with our own Gen 7 ASICs that allow you to build out a complete end-to-end network from the access all the way to the data center, core and aggregation in between. And then lastly, we have what we call the network analytics engine, and this is really out there to address customers' ability to get insights leveraging embedded analytics in every hop of the network. That is all the way from the campus edge to the core, and as well as the data center. And so it's all of this brought together that we believe we bring a very unique capability to operators around the world.
I can see how we've taken the power of AOS CX, not just for the core and the aggregation layer, but extended it to the edge switching on one side and the data center on the other side to bring the entire switching framework under one single operating system. This is really powerful. Let's bring up the Aruba ESP game board back on the screen. Looks like the next segment is unified architecture. But before we dive deep into it, I want to bring on a familiar face back again. Over to you, Madani.
So I recently celebrated my 8th anniversary here at Aruba, and it's been a great ride. And you know, I've been in different parts of the company. A lot of people don't realize I actually started in sales on the mobility access switch. And yes, Aruba made switches before we became part of the HPE family. But after that, I started working on ClearPass Policy Manager, which is where I really got to learn a lot about authentication and authorization and policy. And then most recently, I joined the wireless team. You know, the one thing that's kind of consistent in each of those areas that I worked in was the need for management and the desire to have a single pane of glass. You know, and as we've added new technologies to our portfolio, whether that be SD branch or our new cutting-edge CX switches, or even increase the speed of our wireless with Wi-Fi 6, that need for a centralized management is really, it's very important to our customers. It really helps them achieve their goals. And so I'm really excited that today we're going to talk about that, and you're going to see some really great demos about Aruba Central and how we're bringing this all together in one place, that regardless of where you're deploying, whether it's a branch, whether it's a micro branch, like many of us here at home happen to be here in my living room with all these cameras or lights and such, and ultimately the campus. So one platform where you can deploy, monitor, report, and troubleshoot, and get a lot of new capabilities such as AI insights. It really is exciting. So I hope you enjoy it. Enjoy the demo.
The next segment on the game board is a single architecture managed by a single pane of glass. And I'm going to call upon just the right person to walk us through this segment. Samuel, please step up.
Let's do it.
All right. So I'm sure you've heard from customers as well as I have that they would like to take all of the goodness of AOS 8 and SD-WAN and SD branch, bring it together into one single architecture that can span large campuses or large sites to remote branch offices and also teleworkers and home offices, which is where a lot of the action is today. And to do all of this so that it can be managed by a single pane of glass that is anchored in the cloud with Aruba Central. This is my favorite segment of the keynote because there's been a lot of work done by the team, and I want to bring it all out. So can you please take a deep dive with me on this topic?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. But like every other segment, you see me dressed up in this costume. So we're going to start it off with a little game here. But since this is serious stuff, I just want to leave Dan the Man completely out of this game. Let me describe the game to you. It's called Build the Aruba ESP Pyramid. You see a bunch of blocks lying around. Your task is to organize them so that they're consistent. That allows you to climb all the way up to the top of the pyramid. You ready to do it, Sam?
You know what? I think the best way for me to play this game is to show you a demo, Partha.
Okay, let's see it.
We had already upgraded our Santa Clara campus to Aruba OS 10, and there's a significant difference in the architecture where we have APs, not necessarily campus APs or wraps or IAPs connecting to a cluster of gateways. And that is because we're calling them gateways because they're not really doing the control function anymore that partially moved to the Mobility Master in AOS 8 and now has completely moved to Central in AOS 10. But so we can see here.
Let me pause here. I heard you say upgrade. So essentially you're saying that to move to AOS 10, you can take your existing 300 series, 500 series APs, and what are essentially wireless LAN controllers today. And when you do the upgrade, it's a software upgrade.
Absolutely.
And the wireless LAN controllers just become data plane devices for mobility and security, correct?
Exactly. We're going to use the same access points. We're going to use the same hardware for the controllers. we're not calling them controllers anymore, but that's about it. And of course, instead of having Airwave and the Mobility Master, we're just going to have Aruba Central to be our single pane of glass, single point of management.
Got it.
We see that we still are using the same foundation, right? We have this Cape sensor that is connected to an AP that is tunneled to the gateway. Let's move to where most of the action is these days. So if I go to some of our teleworkers, this AOS 10 architecture allows us to have the same look and feel, the same access points, the same technology for our remote workers. In this case, we can see that Yona's computer is connected to VLAN 903. It's tunneled all the way back. It's getting an IP address from the office. We can see it here in Central how he connects back. But other devices that he has at home, some printers, some desktops, some iPad are bridged and are just left in the connected to his own router and just going to the internet. And there's not just the normal set of users like Yona. There's other users that we could call advanced, and I'll use my home setup as an example. We can see how my branch gateway, because in this case I'm using a branch gateway, is the one that is giving me connectivity. Okay, and we're using the branch gateways. We had been deploying them in our offices in Cape Town, in Sydney, in many other locations. But since we have these special users that have a lot of gear, perhaps QA engineers, perhaps SCs and CSCs that have sometimes even a rack full of gear, we need to give them something a little more advanced. What I have at home here is, of course, an access point, but I also have a branch gateway that is allowing me to seamlessly fail over between multiple circuits. And in this case, I obviously don't have two service providers at home. What I have is the 9004 LTE, which has an integrated LTE radio. So in this case, you saw how the main uplink, the internet uplink, was red, but I'm still able to connect back to corporate because the cellular uplink is enabling that connectivity. In fact, I have one of these here, Partha. I don't know if you've seen any of them before.
Well, that reminds me of the old AP52, the first AP that Aruba released 17 years ago.
Yeah, except that these are LTE antennas, not Wi-Fi antennas, and of course this is a lot more beefy than what we had back then. This little guy is actually capable of doing IDS IPS. It's capable of doing 4 gigs of firewall throughput. So it definitely covers my needs as a teleworker, and it definitely covers the needs of most of our branch locations.
Hey, listen, Sam, I want to be treated as an advanced user as well, because I spend a lot of my time at home on Zoom calls. How can you make sure that my Zoom calls work well?
Yeah, you saw how I had multiple circuits at home, and one thing we're doing is, about our user experience insights sensors that are monitoring different applications to tell me how the network is doing from the perspective of a client device. Well, the gateway is doing something pretty similar. It is monitoring how the network is doing, but it is doing it to get me on the best possible circuit. Okay, if I take, for instance, our Cape Town office as an example, we can see that all the critical SaaS applications that they're using are being monitored, and we can see over time how we saw that Slack had a bit of a dip. That's because the latency has increased a little bit. You mentioned before Zoom. Zoom seems to be working pretty well, but it did have a dip a few minutes ago, and that was because the jitter came up slightly. It's not something we should be concerned about. The Zoom application is very robust, but the application or Central is already telling us about it.
Sam, I'm going to ask you a little bit about, you talked about what we deploy at each of the sites, right? But the goal with our SD-WAN solution, which is part of AOS 10, is also to connect the sites back up to our apps and data, whether it's our data center, whether it's our VPCs in the cloud or SaaS like Zoom. I know that we moved to a newer way of doing things, which is more orchestrated. and leads to a better user experience and operator experience.
Yeah,
Can you
definitely.
take us through that, please?
Yeah, you're right. I was perhaps going a little bit too quick. As part of AOS 10, we are actually using some of the technology in our SD-WAN product, and that is the orchestration between Aruba devices. Okay, one thing we've done in the latest release is we've taught some additional languages to our orchestrator. We now have not only the possibility of ensuring connectivity between Aruba devices, but also between an Aruba device and a third-party device. And we've started with these partners with AWS, with Azure, and with Zscaler. And I wanted to show you how some of our locations, especially our engineers have to do a lot of work with AWS, with Azure, and the likes of those, are using this technology to seamlessly connect to the cloud. In this case, using the Cloud Connect feature, I can just pick a group of branch gateways and say, in this case, branches in the East Coast of the US, I want to connect to the transit gateway in Virginia. Branches in the West Coast, I'm going to connect them to Oregon. Branches in the South of APJ, I'm going to connect them to Singapore. And it is as simple as checking this box, hitting preview, and hitting submit. It takes care of talking to AWS through its APIs, or to Azure, or to whichever partner, and build the IPsec tunnel, build the BGP connection to exchange routes, and you're good to go. Once we've done, we have to give it a couple of minutes. We can see how the branch gateway is connecting, in this case, to the AWS Transit Gateway through all these uplinks. It's building the necessary IPsec tunnels. It's exchanging routes, and it's basically ready to go.
Sam, thank you for that great walkthrough of AOS 10. That was a lot of ground to cover, and you did a fantastic job in the limited time that we had. Let's see how well you're doing with Build the Aruba ESP Pyramid game.
Hey, with all we saw, Partha, I expect to be right at the top.
Looks like you are. Thank you once again, Sam.
Thanks.
So that brings us to that segment covered unified infrastructure, which was the third leg of Aruba ESP. Right? We started with the first one, which was AI Ops, went into Zero Trust security, and now finished with unified infrastructure. We have a lot of our customers doing great things with our products and solutions. Let's hear from one of them, Ohio State University.
The Ohio State Stadium that was built in roughly 1923, it's 808,000 square foot facility. It's gone through several renovations over what's almost 100 years now. But right now it's right around 104,000 seats. It's very, very iconic for the Columbus area. Fan experience obviously was our first and foremost goal with what we were trying to accomplish. Being in the stadium with 104,000 of your closest friends, you want to be able to post. You want to be able to get onto YouTube, whether you want to post or whether you want to see what someone's posted. You want to be able to do what you can do when you're sitting in your home. You want it to mirror that experience. Students want to mirror that experience that they have in their residence halls where they have lots of Wi-Fi. They want to be able to mirror that experience when they come to the game. We knew that the only way we were going to accomplish that is if we had an infrastructure that would support that. We needed to be able to push a lot of data through a lot of what I call channels. And to do that, we believe that Wi-Fi 6 and the APs that we purchased really were going to deliver that for us. And we believe they did. Wi-Fi 6 for us actually was the game changer we needed. It actually has made our fan experience and drove our fan experience. You kind of have to see it to believe it, but seeing people in any given section as I walked through, especially when the band was out, seeing people with their phones out, all with their phones up, videoing, being able to do that alone was significant for us. And that was exciting. It's just exciting. And Wi-Fi 6 really enabled that. The results ended up being very impressive. We pushed on the Michigan State game, we pushed 25.8 terabytes of data. That gave us the #1 spot out of all the venues, whether they be Super Bowl or college stadiums, gave us the #1 spot. Till February 1st or 2nd or whenever the Super Bowl was this year, then they overtook us by, I think, 0.6 or something like that. So we'll take it back this coming year, hopefully. If you come to a high state game, you just need to come prepared to say, "Go Bucks."
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Ohio State. Let's bring the game board back onto the screen. Looks like the next segment is transitioning us from the digital world into the physical world. And I know the right contestant to play this segment. Nick, are you ready?
Partha, I'm here. Let's do this.
Nick, we've talked about in the past about how the connectivity layer helps us understand the physical world significantly. And we started with understanding space itself and understanding people, but most of the recent activity is about things and workflows like asset tracking. Tell me more.
Yeah, absolutely. Understanding what's not only the space itself, but what's in the space is critical for customers. They want to understand how things flow through their space, how long they're staying in certain places, and what they're doing there. And so having an understanding of the things that are in a space is really important for our customers. And to show you, let's watch a video.
At Vantage Mobility, we build minivans for the handicapped. Vantage Mobility, on an average, produces about 3,200 to 3,300 vehicles per year. We have 4 locations in Phoenix, Arizona. We have 1 location in Tucker, Georgia, and we have 1 location in Houston. At any one time in Phoenix, we could have 800 to 900 vehicles. In Atlanta, which is another manufacturing facility, we have anywhere to 300 to 400 vehicles on their lots at any one time. We've started over the last few years to lean a lot on technology to help us become more efficient in the business processes that we support. Currently, Vantage Mobility has 2 projects for asset tracking. The #1 project at the main plant would be asset tracking of our vehicle inventory as far as location, zones, into the production line. Once the vehicle is shipped to VMI, the minute it hits our lot, we would assign it a tracking tag. That tag would live with the vehicle its whole lifespan through our production line until the vehicle is shipped to the end user. So that would allow us to be able to track the vehicle where it is at any given point. Once it enters the production line, we have a 30-stage production line. It would allow us to track that vehicle through the production line all the way down to the time per station that vehicle's in there. Another complement to the asset tracking is the ability to understand in a sea of 800 vehicles where one single vehicle is at any one point. That traditionally takes us sometimes up to 2 hours looking at a spreadsheet and deciphering VIN numbers and where the location of that vehicle might be. After we implement the Aruba asset tracking system, it would allow us to pinpoint a zone area that vehicle is at and could reduce the time down to about 5 minutes. Everything we do here at Vantage Mobility helps enhance an end user's life. So as the technology director, if I can do that through technology and cut out the inefficiencies in a process, it actually saves money on both ends. So it allows me to think I'm doing my part to help the cost of our product go down so that more people with disabilities can afford them.
That's good. I want to learn more. But remember, this is a game show. So let's play a game first. The next game we want to play is called 2 Truths and a Lie. So I'm going to be the host and I'll make some comments We'll have a contestant, and you're going to judge whether they got some things right or not.
Sounds good.
And I know Dan's been complaining about not getting enough chances to play. So Dan the man, why don't you join us for this game?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. Dan, the rules of the game are here. I'm going to make 3 statements. 2 of them are true and 1 is a lie, and you're going to find out which one is which. You ready?
True.
What's true? We haven't started.
That we're playing the game.
Yeah, that doesn't count, so hold on.
Okay.
First statement. APs can locate themselves. Truth or lie?
Lie.
Okay. Customers don't need an overlay infrastructure for IoT. Truth or lie?
Lie.
Okay. Integrations with IoT solutions is hard. Truth or lie?
True.
Dan, it was 2 truths and a lie. Partha, we got to get this guy out of here.
What?
So let me explain. First of all, APs actually can locate themselves, and I'm going to be excited to show you how in a few minutes. Customers don't need overlay infrastructure for IoT, and actually integration with IoT solutions is really easy. I think it'd be great to show you how that works. We could show you a demo.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, Partha. To show you the IoT operations demo, let me head over to Aruba Central. As we've talked about, Aruba access points are used by many of our customers as a transport layer or gateway for IoT functionality from several of our partners. Today, setting this up is a fairly one-off process. IoT operations is intended to help our customers set up, monitor, and manage the ability of their Aruba network to facilitate these IoT workflows in a more scalable way. So the first thing I want to show you is the App Store. Using a model that we are all very used to, all of the supported partners will be listed here. Installing a new integration is as simple as clicking Install. In addition to setting up these IoT integrations, we've also made it easier for our customers to monitor and manage the IoT traffic on their network. Here you can see how many IoT devices are active, as well as what the current resource and throughput load looks like. Finally, we can get more information about the devices themselves, including an easy way to deep link to the functionality provided by the partner. I'll go ahead and click on this sensor from our partner, ABB. So among other things, ABB makes sensors which are monitoring the load on certain types of bearings. Using the data that is being passed through an Aruba network, customers can see the current status of these bearings and be able to service or replace them before they wear out. So, to finish the demo, IoT operations will make it much easier for our customers to set up, monitor, and manage their partner IoT devices which utilize their Aruba network.
That was a great demo, Nick. We've talked about leveraging the APs as an IoT platform for connectivity, but it was really good to see how the team has enabled rolling out end-to-end IoT solutions much easier. But let me tell you, to me, IoT is about digitizing the physical world, which means that location becomes important. Locating these devices is very critical. And as infrastructure devices that become the sensing entities for locationing, the location of APs themselves becomes important. It's one thing if you're deploying a dozen or so APs, right? You could deploy them and then easily place them on a floor plan. But if a customer has to deploy thousands of APs, that could quickly get out of hand. It could cause errors. It's tedious. Is there anything we can do to simplify that process?
Locating APs is critical to making sure that a lot of the use cases that we've talked about, including asset tracking, works well. The APs have to be located correctly for the system to work. And the old way would include spending a lot of time placing those one by one into visual RF. And that has all sorts of opportunity for error and misses. So we've actually come up with a really great new way of doing that. And instead of telling you about it, let me show you. So under the new way, it's a pretty easy three-step process. The first thing is to install a few anchor APs and then locate them in Visual RF. Second step is to go ahead and install all of those APs. And in fact, this step is so easy that even Dan the man could do it. Then finally, we go back to Visual RF and click Locate APs, and all of the APs show up exactly where they are in real space. So it's pretty amazing how easy it is to do with our new tool.
Fantastic, Nick. I agree with you. I think it's going to reduce the amount of effort to get thousands of APs placed on Visual RF by at least an order of magnitude. Listen, staying on the topic of what impact we can have on the physical world, we look around us and we're all going through some interesting times. And Keithy yesterday talked about the three phases that all of our customers are as well going through, which is business continuity of leveraging existing technologies to continue to let their employees stay productive while they're working from home, and a business recovery phase that talks about how do we bring people back into physical spaces in a safe and responsible manner, and then the new normal of what is going to stick beyond the current phase that we're going through. We've also been getting a lot of incoming inquiries from customers that are asking us if the network can play an important role in the business recovery phase. You know, we have a lot of access points deployed out there and a bunch of telemetry data that we're acquiring today. Can we use that to solve at least the three use cases that I've heard from customers, which is, can I identify hotspots in my physical spaces to see where I need to go make changes to increase social distancing? Can I look at shared space usage and direct my cleaning crews to increase my sanitation? And thirdly, if I do identify a person of interest, can I quickly figure out who else they could have been in close proximity to over the past few days in there? Is there something we can do to help customers immediately with business recovery?
Partha, there is. In fact, the great news is at our customer sites, we have over 10 million APs installed today. And these APs with both Wi-Fi and BLE capabilities that are going to help us answer those questions that you just mentioned. In fact, let me show you a demo about exactly how we're doing this.
What I'm showing you here is a prototype of the tool we are building. We used a standard BI visualization tool to give ourselves an idea of what would be possible. So, for this first use case, we take our person of interest and we want to see who else they came into contact with over the time frame we are interested in. The model is using AP associations of users. So, if users were associated with the same AP at the same time, this counts as a contact. We can also see this information represented over the course of time. The colors here show the different spaces. For example, this pink color is a classroom. All of the data here has been anonymized, so while it's real data, we are not showing the actual names of buildings, floors, or APs in the space. It's good to point out that the data we can present back to customers here is even more useful if the APs have been put into groups that are representative of the actual physical space. When APs have been put into the correct buildings, then it makes the data more accurate. These tables are all sorted based on number of connection minutes, so it makes it easy to see which ones rise to the top. Let's look at another use case where we look at a view by space. I'll start with the library. In this view, I can see the usage by floor and also by AP. It looks like there is one floor that is used a lot more than the others. Looking at the connections by per AP, it looks like about 10 APs have most of the interactions here. As an example, we can use this information to try and reconfigure the space to have less connections between people next to these APs. In this case, there's a big drop-off of usage after you get past about the 10th AP. Now, this last chart down below shows the same information over the course of 3 days by floor. this helps us see how much use each floor is getting. Again, knowing this information will help me now know which spaces are getting the most usage, and I can put a policy in place to change that. So finally, I want to show you what a contact tracing use case workflow might look like. So I'm going to go ahead and pre-select a specific user. This chart now shows this user's movements over time and space. A contact tracer could use this information to help the user know where he or she had been over the course of the day. Now it looks like this particular user was first in the dorm, and then in some classrooms, and then I think finally in the library. So I can see for a particular space and time what are the other users that this person of interest was in contact with. So for example, I can click on a specific place, this one being the library, and get a list of all of the other devices that have been in proximity with my person of interest. I want to emphasize that this information would be used to help actual contact tracers then reach out to the appropriate people the person of interest had been in contact with. Remember that this is just a prototype showing what we can do with the data we have. It is currently acting as a model for the production tool we are building now.
So Partha, I hope that gives you a good sense of what we're enabling on our own platforms. But remember that our access points is an IoT platform. And so in addition to the things that we're doing, we're also enabling many of our partners to provide solutions to these same issues.
Thank you, Nick. The importance of the network to make an impact on the physical world is even more important now. I can't wait for these solutions to get into customers' hands so that they can start the business recovery process in a safe and responsible manner. Thank you for walking us through the physical world segment. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. That brings us to a close of the main content of the keynote. That was a lot of ground to cover again. We started with the 3 pillars of Aruba ESP, with AI Ops, leading into Zero Trust security, and finishing with the unified infrastructure. But take all of this and show you how we make an impact, not just on connect and protect, but also analyze and act, but not just in the digital world, but also in the physical world. This is a very limited time that we had to present the content, so I encourage you to tune into the breakouts and the innovation zone to learn even more about all the new things that are coming up. This year was a little different. We usually tend to do this face-to-face, but I can tell you the Keynote team rose up to the challenge of delivering this content out to you, and I want to thank the entire Keynote team for all the effort that they put in over multiple weeks to create this particular keynote in here. And as for myself, I do like the ATM digital, but I prefer the face-to-face interactions. So I'm going to sign off by saying goodbye in person to Doug over here, but everybody else over the internet. Thank you, and let's see each other face-to-face next year. Goodbye.
What a game show host! There's even more techie stuff in the Innovation Zone. See live tech sessions with product experts and actual orange unicorn, and you can sign up to become an airhead yourself.